What's up guys, Jerome here from the Bonsai Supply, and today I thought it was a great idea to show you guys some updates of our recently worked bonsai trees. So the first tree that I chose to show you here today is our Trident Maple. This Trident Maple, as you may remember it was repotted in early spring when it was just starting to bud. It had barely any roots, and look at it now. And so this time difference is about a month and a half. So it has grown quite a bit. As you can see, some shoots are, about 10 to 12 inches long. They haven't lignified yet, so they're still pushing very strong. There's new growth coming out still everywhere, and I haven't trimmed the new growth back yet, obviously, as you can see, because if you may remember in the video when I repotted this tree earlier this year, the tree barely had any roots. So therefore, I was allowing for the tree to wake up and push, and I don't think I'm gonna actually work on this tree for another couple months, probably until July, once the deciduous tree go into that quick dormant period. That's when I'll probably go in here and actually trim the tree back. But until then, I really wanted to push out as much as possible, because the more that this on top grows, the more the roots grow. And you may remember that the tree did not have a lot of roots to begin with. So I think this tree is well on its way to become a very nice tree. So let's move on to the next tree. Alright, so here we have the next tree, which was the Japanese maple Archiva, so the rough bark maple that we turned into a clump style. As you can see, it's grown quite a bit. It's grown another foot up here on top, so it has really pushed since I potted and created this composition here, and it looks really happy. Now, out of the 5 trees that I have potted here, 4 of them actually woke up in the spring with red foliage, and 1 woke up with green foliage. So as you can see, even though these 5 seedlings came from the same tree, they are a little different in terms of cultivars. And so this happens. This is what Japanese maples are known for. Even though if they all come from the same tree, they all are slightly different. Some have slightly larger leaves, different leaf colors, slightly different bark, and so it doesn't bother me. I actually kind of like the difference of the trees in here, so it's not that big of a deal to me. The trunks are already starting to bark up quite a bit, and actually if you take a closer look here, you can see where the wire is already starting to cut into the trunks. So I've already gone ahead and removed the wire from this main trunk, and I'm actually going to wait to remove these wires for probably like another week, but I'm going to keep a very close eye on them and then remove them as well. Japanese maple in particular are very notorious in the spring for pushing out so much growth, where you have to keep a very close eye on the wire so that you don't scar your trees. Some of you have expressed concern that the trees would have to be potted closer together in order for them to fuse, and that is correct if I wanted this tree to be a smaller composition in terms of trees, being perhaps about this size and maybe like a ½ an inch thickness. That is correct, but I'm going for a much bigger design here. I want each tree to be about 2 to 3 inches in thickness, so I want them to be quite thick and a quite big display. So therefore I had to kind of pot them further apart from each other so that they can thicken up more before they start to fuse. Now what does that mean? So that means that the next time I repot this tree, I may have to go ahead and push them a little closer together or rearrange them. So this is a long-term process. It's not an overnight quick process. This clump style is gonna, I'm looking to develop this over the next 10 years. So the fusing doesn't have to start right away. I can adjust over time. Alright, so next up we have the Procumbens Juniper that I gave its first styling earlier this year. It came in actually didn't come in any pot, but it had a root ball about this size, and the foliage was about out to here. And I reduced the tree, I restyled it, I gave it its very first styling, and I potted the tree at the same time. And so I did receive, some dislikes and some comments of people saying, hey, you're gonna kill your tree, and this is not the way you should work on junipers. You should do one thing at a time, either repot them or either style them. Now, that is very true on some levels, but here's the thing. Hear me out. This tree was grown in a field with no pot, and it's 40 years old. So it must have lost that pot maybe in the last 10 years where the root ball was exposed. The tree had a lot of foliage, so it was very happy. It was not collected from the mountains, right? It had already been established in terms of like the root ball was there, it had a lot of roots, a lot of growth, so therefore it was very safe for me to go ahead and reduce the foliage, do the styling, and repot it. And I only did this once. I'm not going to do it every time because this tree is not going to get repotted now for probably like 5 years. In the meantime, I will reduce this root ball, but I can do that while the tree is potted, and I can still work on the foliage. Also, this is a Procumbens Juniper, and Procumbens Junipers are very, very tough trees. They're very strong. You can do a lot of things with those. In Florida, as a matter of fact, we would even repot Procumbens Junipers in the middle of the summer because they're so tough, and we would style them, repot them, do everything, and they came back perfectly fine. And as you can see, this one is coming perfectly fine back as well. It is very healthy. It has a lot of new growth. I'm about to give it its very first fertilizing of the year, and this tree is going to progress throughout the next couple of years, and it's going to be very healthy and very happy. So I just wanted to show you guys the update of this one because this tree is very dear to me because it's so old, and it's such a cool looking tree, and the design I liked a lot that I created of the one-sided cascading one. I think it came out really cool. So this is a tree that I'm going to develop for the next couple of years, and it'll look really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and give it its first fertilizing of the season probably this weekend, and just keep progressing the tree slowly. But as you can see, it has come back. It is super healthy, super happy, and we're just chugging along on creating a really nice looking tree down the road, one little step at a time. Alright, so next up we have the American Hackberry that once again I repotted it into this beautiful pot earlier in the spring, and it is pushing out still. It started pushing out a little later than I thought it would. It kind of stood there for a couple weeks and just sat and didn't do anything, and then in the last maybe 2 weeks it just started to push out profusely. So patience does pay off sometimes. The new growth is not hardened yet. It is still pushing very strong, so I am going to start to fertilize once the new growth has hardened off, and I'm going to give this tree its very first styling in July, when the tree goes, when deciduous trees go into that dormant period for about 2 weeks to 30 days, depending on your climate. I'm going to go ahead and defoliate the tree and then give it its very first styling, remove the unwanted branches, and I'm going to make a video and take you along for that ride because I think this is going to be a pretty special tree. Next up we have Bad to the Bone Ball Cypress. It has grown and pushed out a lot. You can see that more growth has come out down here as well. And this is really what makes Ball Cypress one of my all-time favorite trees, because it's so easy to work with. It's easy to collect. The survival rate is very high. Anything you do to them, they don't care. They're just along for the ride. When they push out though, like after the foliation or in spring, they push out everywhere on the trunk. There's growth all the way from the top all the way to the bottom, coming out on old random places, and even on the same branches. I mean, within like maybe like a 1/4 inch spacing, new growth comes out everywhere. And this is fantastic because you can just pick new growth everywhere. You can say, oh, you can be really selective. You can say, oh, I don't want to branch there, remove the new foliage, I want to branch there, I don't want one there. So this is really cool about ball cypresses. This tree, it is starting to cut into the new growth, so I have to keep a really close eye and start to remove some wires already. Generally the thinner wire cuts in first, and then the thicker wire cuts in a little later. But all in all, this tree is just chugging along nicely. And then once again in the in the middle of July, when the tree has hopefully the first growth has fully pushed out and hardened, that's when I go through and really select the branches that I want to add to this design and remove everything else, give it a full defoliation. And that's also kind of why I have not removed anything yet, because you may remember when I potted this tree, it did not have a lot of roots. So once again, I like to let the top grow and just freely push out. and then once the new growth has hardened off, kind of come back and do my work. Also, just again, the more the top grows, the more the bottom grows. So if you want to develop a lot of fruits, let the top grow. If you don't let the top grow, the bottom won't grow. It's kind of like a mirror image of each other, but this tree is chucking along nicely, and I'm very excited to see where it's going to go. So I hope that you guys enjoyed today's update video of all the trees that we've worked on so far this year. Comment below in the comment section, let me know which one is your favorite tree, and I hope that I was able to clear up some of the questions or confusions that may have been out there about the trees that we've worked on so far. Please like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I will catch you guys next time.